guys, welcome back to the Full Feature Podcast. I'm Ian, and as usual, I am joined by Tiernan and Jack.
Hello.
And this week we're actually going to try something out a little bit different. We just noticed that our podcasts are a little bit longer than maybe our usual ones, so we're going to try and keep this one nice and brief. We're going to keep it about an hour long, and let us know what you think, guys. Once you finish listening, do you like it a bit shorter? Do you like us when we go on a little bit of a tangent? We know that sometimes we let things go on a little bit too long. But if you guys like that, let us know. If you like the kind of short bit of brevity, let us know so we can kind of work it out and try it out. But we're just going to try it out for this week. And we've got still a lot of exciting stuff to talk about. The main thing is going to be obviously New Mutants, which we've all just seen literally a couple of hours ago.
Yeah. 2 weeks in a row now doing films that are out in cinema.
That are
fucking
new.
weird.
Which is what the original idea for the podcast was.
What a year to make a podcast.
What a year. But before we get on to that, we're just going to talk briefly about one piece of movie news, I think, this week.
One piece of movie news that can't really be ignored is that Joaquin Phoenix is currently in negotiations about 2 more Joker films, which I am personally devastated about.
Yeah, I'm really not into this. Really not into this because they're just going to it's perfect. DC need to realise that once-off films is where they really do well.
Mainly, yeah.
Where are they headed? Like I don't want a universe where Joaquin Phoenix is getting lumped around by Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, I agree. If it stays its own universe, but like the thing is the money, man. You know, the money, and then the Twitter interactions and shit when people are like, "Oh, Robert Pattinson was in fucking Robert Pattinson would beat Joaquin Phoenix to death." Especially how he's such a violent Batman that was in the Batman trailer that's coming up.
Yeah.
Like an ill-placed punch, and poor old Joaquin, like that's his jaw, his hinge,
like if Joaquin hits his head off the curb, that's it.
If Joaquin doesn't take his fucking 5 daily tablets, he has a fucking seizure.
He was pure decrepit, like.
If he doesn't get a bit of protein into him now, like he's going to snap.
I don't know where they're going to take it. Like, where do you think it's going?
I'm so surprised Joaquin is open for it, but I did hear him in the past say he would be open for
a fuckload of money.
Yeah, like is that like?
Well, yeah, like I mean, okay, as you say, I don't really see where they can take it because the film ended where Bruce Wayne's parents died, and maybe you have a little bit of a continuation of how Gotham is on the further downward decline, and then I do not want to see interactions between Rob Pattinson and Joaquin Phoenix. I just would hate that. And he's not the same Joker that obviously was portrayed in The Dark Knight, where you know he's a lunatic and he's crazy, but he's also a criminal mastermind.
Yeah,
this Joker was not that. He was just an unhinged guy.
He stumbled into it.
He stumbled into it, and it's what causes everybody to be on the Joker side by the end of it. If you haven't seen it, spoiler alert, but the city's in riots, is because it's the perfect timing. The city's already in a bad place.
It's a melting pot.
It's a melting pot, exactly. And it's all boiling up. And the whole movie had that feeling of something's about to boil over here now. And as you say, Jack, it made tons of money. It also got tons of critical acclaim. Joaquin Phoenix won a Best Actor Oscar. Making sequels out of this just does not sound like the right move at all.
It's the wrong step for fucking DC to go right there right
But it'd be interesting, is it going to be Todd Phillips again? Like, is it the same scriptwriter? What's their plan with it? Because I mean, maybe they have something that we obviously don't see. I mean, like, we could be talking about like the next Dark Knight trilogy, but like I just really strongly doubt it.
I can't see
it's
that
just
happening.
He's not like the Dark Knight, as based in reality as it was at its core still a comic book film.
Yeah.
Whereas the Joker wasn't a comic book film. It had comic book references. It was nostalgic to what Batman is. But it was in no way a comic book film. As we'll say time and time again, like you could beat him around to a fucking pulp.
Yeah.
The Joker, in every portrayal he's still been a goer, like you know, he's still been able to fight, and like he still had his tricks up his sleeve and everything. This fella's just a clown on the sidewalk.
Also, by the time Bruce Wayne becomes Batman, which I presume would be his mid-20s,
Yeah.
Joker, Joaquin Phoenix is 49.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, this is just the weird.
And even if they don't include Batman, where are they going to go with this? Are they just going to have fucking Joaquin being, because it's not a universe where I can see a Poison Ivy, a Killer Croc, or
no,
like
absolutely
it's
not.
kind of like Gotham, in the sense that like Gotham as a show
was
was
origin
always
stories.
missing Batman.
Yeah.
Like it was always missing Batman. Everyone who watched it was like, this is just Batman without Batman. Like,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah.
And
Batman's the best part of Batman.
Yeah,
Batman's the best part of
yes,
Batman.
exactly.
And
Do you know what I
Joker
mean?
is refreshing or whatever.
But I
and
was
it's
missing
nice.
Batman during it. I don't know
Yeah.
about you guys.
Yeah, well, yeah, but
One is enough for me anyway.
yeah, and if you're doing that take on it where you're making commentary about wealth inequality and mental
Yeah.
health, it doesn't scream trilogy, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's a bit of a think piece. in
It
a
was
comic book setting.
based on mental health. So what is like the next film? Batman beating the shit out of his mentally
his
ill.
counselor. Yeah, he's mentally ill guy. That man needs counselling.
Yeah.
Where's your counselling?
Yeah.
He's like this because he couldn't afford the proper treatment he needed. Please, Bruce.
Please.
Justice.
Why don't we just change it to the Batman slander
Oh,
podcast?
so- I hope they address this shit in the fucking new Batman. Like in that trailer, he fucking hits your man
Lumps.
so. Like I hope Alfred is like, mate, you need to fucking chill out. Like these people are fucking petty criminals
Yeah.
working for someone who's clearly manipulating them.
Yeah,
like.
you ever see those TikToks where it's like, don't worry, honey, we're going to be able to get my girl to school. I'm just going to shift these boxes for Joker. And then Batman's like, beating the crap into
Breaking
some
their
like
backs,
henchmen.
Where's Joker? Please, my wife.
Okay, well, yeah, I think we'll just have to wait and see with that one and see if it does come to fruition.
I mean,
And
it's just negotiations.
it's yeah, and I mean, I'm surprised because Joaquin Phoenix is picky on his roles. He's a weird guy, but this one
He
got
hasn't
him-
really been in a lot of films.
No, he hasn't. But this one got him his Oscar. It probably got
Mm-hmm.
him a lot of money, and the other two may not get him Oscars, but they'll certainly get
Get
him
him a lot of money.
fucking money.
Yeah.
But moving on to our next thing. Thank you guys for voting over the last 2 weeks for our Marvel polls.
Always such a good showing.
We always absolutely love the response we get from them, and this one was tough. We were surprised with a lot of films, but so yesterday was our semi-finals, and of course we had Infinity War against Far From Home. Most of the races were pretty close. They were always in and around 60-40, 50-58, 42. But these ones were clear-cut winners. The semi-finalists were Infinity War and Far From Home. Infinity War was 90% over Far From Home.
Fair.
And then Endgame over Civil War was 84% over Civil War.
Yeah.
I think that's
That's
agree.
all fair.
That's all fair.
Yeah,
like,
I agree.
yeah. So of course the grand finale was actually Endgame and Infinity War, which I think those are two fair competitors to go up against each
I'm
other.
honestly saying this now. I think I'm delighted that for once in a franchise and like this franchise had bigger expectation than any other franchise that's ever existed because there were 20 films before it.
Yeah.
But the fact that both of these films got into this final is just so impressive. The
It-
culminative films, the
Yeah.
two-parter, like
It
you
shows
know.
how they were both so significant in the franchise. Not
Yeah.
just like Infinity War was not just that setup film. It was just as significant.
and just
as
how much they
Endgame.
delivered. Like
Yeah.
Yeah,
crazy.
especially compared to the other Avengers. Now, the first Avengers will always have a kind of sweet spot for me or whatever.
But,
The
when
first
you, but
Avengers
it's
are incredible.
it's such
Yeah.
a different, but it's such a different
Vibe.
vibe to
Yeah,
the later
the
ones.
vibe
Yeah,
changed
yeah.
a lot. It's very kind of
Um,
fucking Captain America first 30 minutes.
Yeah,
right.
100%.
Age of Ultron is absolute dog shit.
Brutal.
Yeah.
And is there Avengers 3 or
No,
No,
that's it,
3
that's
was
Infinity
Infinity
War,
War,
yeah.
yeah.
Infinity
So,
War, yeah,
of
yeah.
course, the winner was Endgame, and it won by quite a margin. It was 66% of you guys voted for Endgame over Infinity War.
That's surprising to me.
Yeah, me and you were just talking about
I
this,
much
Jack.
prefer Infinity War as a film.
Yeah.
Now, look, I love them both, and I feel like they can be watched as a unit. But I just think Infinity War is a better film overall. I
Yeah,
think Endgame drags a bit in that kind of third act. Don't fucking shoot me for this or whatever. But I just feel like the period from when they go out of back into time into reality where like everything's fine again. I'm
Yeah.
kinda like, this is a weird kind of story way that the story goes. And look, I've watched it twice. I really enjoyed it. It's like a fucking 8 out of 10 for me, like a 9 out of 10 almost. But I just think Infinity War is a better film. The kind of sense of dread throughout the whole thing. And Thanos actually feels like a villain for the first time in the Marvel universe. Someone actually feels like they can actually affect characters in ways that isn't like, oh, they fucking blew up Tony Stark's house. Who cares?
yeah.
You know, they actually kill people, and there actually is obviously like actual real deaths in this, and then there's all the fake deaths or whatever. There's some of the great battling scenes. I don't know. I just think it's a better film than Endgame, but that's just my opinion.
I actually agree with Jack on that because it kind of hit every benchmark for me. It had all your heroes, and seeing them all interacting together was like we'd always gotten bits of it in the other films.
Yeah.
But this was the first time they were all really, like, I mean, it opens up with, when you have like, you get to see Thor interacting with the Guardians and things like that. And you had Tom Holland, the Spider-Man, really getting in there. Now, obviously, he was introduced in Civil War.
And the groups that they were split up into
were really, and you could tell they put a lot of thought into it.
Really bounced off each other.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Jack, with Endgame and that. Obviously, Endgame was brilliant and all, but I felt it got a little bit messy in the middle.
Yeah.
It was just a little bit like they were throwing everything in the same
it also
direction.
wraps up like a very nice bow. The thing was in Infinity War, it's subverting your expectations because you're like, Thor's going to come in and save the day. And before, when Infinity War came out, we knew that there was Avengers 4 coming. We didn't know what it was called. I think the Endgame
It was originally going to be Infinity War Part 2, but they changed it.
Yeah, and I love how it subverts your expectations. Thor comes down. He's got what's it called, Warbringer or something, or the big fucking weapon that he made, and you think this is gonna wrap up Stormbreaker, like it's gonna wrap up like every other Marvel film, and then like those last kind of 10 minutes, just like, oh shit, everything is like completely unraveling, and everything looks fucking mental, and like that's why I just love it so much more.
Now I gotta say, I think that Infinity War is a really incredible film, like 100% really incredible film. I do think that it does have the issue that like the click at the end is so unbelievably impressive, but there wasn't a single person who came out of that. Like the ending was incredible, but there wasn't a single person who came out of that and was like, that's staying the way it is.
100%.
Like, so I feel like the culminative moment of that film really not meaning anything is an issue.
If you were to sit down and watch them both back to back, just spend fucking 6 hours doing it one day. I could exactly see.
You know what I mean? Like you're watching Infinity War to all at a certain point to come, and then when it does come, you're like, fuck, that's deadly. But then you're like, oh, but I mean, there is another film.
I remember watching a couple of reviewers talking about it at the time, and like, you remember Gamora dies obviously like midway through the film, and they were like, I'm just imagining James Gunn watching this going, oh shit, getting the script for Guardians 3 and just rubbing out loads of stuff.
Rubbing out Gamora's
name.
But in Endgame, I do agree that it has issues. I think that people forget about a lot of stuff that happens in Endgame. Like I just pointed out to Ian that like the Captain America versus Captain America scene, and like when they're back in New York and they're going through all of the moments in Marvel Universe history,
is banging.
All that stuff's incredible. That being said, in the last final fight, I think that they have too many characters and they don't know how to handle it.
There's no weight in that film because no one fucking real actually dies. They kill Gamora, but they just replace her with another Gamora from different
from another timeline.
I know Tony Stark dies, but I mean, he was in the franchise for what, 12 years?
And Gwyneth Paltrow was there.
That was
And if like honestly, why the fuck was Gwyneth Paltrow there?
She's going to become Beacon or whatever.
But I just don't
Why
get
are they
it.
keeping her in that franchise?
They wanted more women.
She wanted out. She wanted
like
out.
They actually did like that. They got her in it to have an extra woman in it. In fact, I think that like that is such a forceful way to do that. It's such a forceful way to diversify. No one likes Gwyneth Paltrow outside of Iron Man. We certainly don't like her as Pepper Potts. I never fucking did. And like the fact that she's in there ruining Iron Man's death, one of the most likable characters in the universe, instead of having Captain America, who never really made up with. He never really made up with it. He just kind of gave a nod to. No, it really bugged me.
I think it would have been weird if they didn't have Pepper. I get what you mean in that when he died. You know what I mean? Like when he died, maybe it should have been Cap who was holding him in those.
Like piss off Pepper. Please,
like. But I think they definitely had to include Pepper in like the funeral and stuff like that.
But it should have been Cap.
Like
it would have been weird if she wasn't there.
Gwyneth Paltrow being there is it's the same buzz as Jon Favreau being there.
Yeah,
you know, like Jon Favreau might as well be flying around.
Although they've weirdly made.
I love that.
How do you work this thing, Tony? Like Peter's mom on Aunt May, like.
Although I have to say, I have really liked how they've extended Happy the character into.
It's the director of fucking half of the films in the franchise.
But I love how he just bailed and he was like, "Now I'm just gonna make the chef show where I cook with people."
But I do think that Endgame, just like as a piece on the screen, just blew me away. I think that it definitely didn't deliver as hard hitting moments on the deaths as I wanted, but I did like the deaths were final.
Yeah, it was like a moment in cinematic history. It was like I do remember just being in a packed out cinema. And like I hate the hype for these things because we'll talk about it when we talk about Star Wars properly and stuff. But I felt like the hype for Star Wars and stuff was starting to die out by the end, but I really felt like I was part of something huge where I was going to go, I'm going to tell like my kids about this one day and be like, it was amazing when we all went to go see that in the cinema.
Everyone going mad at the end and everything and stuff like
exactly.
that. And you see those responses worldwide. So while Infinity War is an incredible film for me, I think that it's nothing without Endgame. And for Endgame to have won this poll, I think is just such a showing to what the MCU did. No idea where they're going to go from here.
Well, they're very accessible films. Me and my mom during lockdown watched the first and the second.
You can just
Infinity
make,
War
you
and
can just knock
Endgame,
them on.
like,
You can literally
she
just knock
fucking
them on.
milled them.
Yeah.
She's 63, like.
Absolutely, like it's. But you're dead right. Like
The
I mean,
stories are
there's-
so brilliant.
Yeah, and there is no age limit to them. You can be a young kid, and like as I said, I'm always so jealous that kids grow up with these. Like if I was 12 when these films were coming out, I would have been losing my mind. But I'm still grateful that I'm in my 20s watching them. You know what I mean? Like,
And like the final one is always the worst one in any other franchise.
but this one was
But
not.
this one wasn't.
No, it really was. It was. They delivered on it. So
So you're trying to think. Lord of the Rings, awful end to the franchise.
Oh,
What?
brutal.
Not awful, just the Ghost Army. Well, I can never get on board with the
I know,
Ghost
I
Army.
know.
Oh, I thought you were talking about The Hobbit.
yeah,
In terms of taste in the mouth. I love Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
I
they're
loved it. But the Ghost Army, what a fucking cop out.
I know, but like it's in the
Return
book.
of the Jedi.
yeah, he didn't want to put it. I don't know. I have a soft spot for Return of the
So
Jedi.
do I, but it's like the Ewoks just kind of ruined it for everyone else.
The
Like,
Ewoks,
we were
the
little.
Ewoks were very Christmas toy.
We were little.
They were meant
babies
to be.
watching it.
They were meant to be Wookiees in the original script.
Yeah.
They literally just flipped the name around Ewok and Wookiee and made them little teddy
Yeah,
bears.
like
that were
Star Wars is like, you know, like at the end of the day, like
It's a
it,
product.
like it is a product. Yeah,
It's-
it's definitely a product now. But back then it was like, you ever see the Star Wars Christmas special? Weirdest thing ever.
We should
Have
do an
to
episode on that. We should 100%
because
do
it
an
is the
episode on that.
strangest piece of film that you will see in your life. I don't know how they got Harrison Ford to do it. It's absolutely fucked. More on that later, but we've got a couple more minutes to talk about MCU, and I just want to ask you guys, what do you think they should do in the next phase? So obviously, I think it's going to phase 4 now, is it? So
Yeah.
phase 3 is over. It's got phase 4 did it
with Far From Home.
Far
I think,
From Home.
I think.
It's a
Maybe it was Captain Marvel.
maybe
might
that's
have
like
been
no, Captain Marvel was
that
before
was
that.
before that.
Yeah, Far From Home was
Yeah.
the last one.
Yeah, so what do you think they need to do in phase 4 in order to improve the series as a whole? I'm not talking about specific points, I'm talking about stuff that you saw, didn't see, or did see in the first 3 phases you want in or out.
I would love if Doctor Doom was a reoccurring huge villain in it, but not the culminative villain. I'd like if Galactus was the culminative villain for the next phase. I think
That's always been the big one.
through that they can introduce the Fantastic Four. So there's another whole group of superheroes to bring in and actually do right this time, because if anyone can do it right, it's the MCU. And I think Doctor Doom would be the villain, similar to Thanos in the sense that he feels like a threat that is also like a very impressive character. Like Galactus in the original Fantastic Four film was a fucking cloud.
Yeah.
Whereas I think Doctor Doom would be a great route to go, and you could build like Latveria is another like Wakanda, you know.
Yeah.
Just seeing where they go with that would be very cool.
Who would you cast?
In Doctor Doom, oh man, off the top of my head, that's a fucking
Leonardo
ass.
DiCaprio.
That's actually a good one, man. That's actually not a bad one at all. Like,
Because he's got the suaveness, and he
And
can
he's
also be a dirty bastard when he
yeah,
wants to
yeah.
be as well.
Although I'd hate to see Leo go to fucking Marvel.
to Marvel.
I know.
I don't think he would.
Seeing Jake Gyllenhaal
Gyllenhaal,
do it was painful enough, to be
Yeah.
honest. Especially he just didn't care.
Well, if we're talking about that, I think I'd actually be opposite to you, Tim. I want them to peel it back a good bit now and start lowering the stakes again and have these smaller kind of contained stories that you can build up over, you know, a year or two. Because that's the one thing I loved about the original Marvel franchise. While the worst films are the Phase 1 films. Do you know what I mean? Like Captain America 1, Thor 1, you know, they are the worst ones. But I always liked that they were always kind of lower stake, and they kept them very contained to that hero. And if they're going to be introducing a rake of new heroes, which they are, like that's the plan, because they're kind of ushered out the old. I would love to see lower stake stuff, and like they can still do the larger scale stuff with Guardians and Thor, because like that's in outer space, like, and there's kind of no limit to what you can do there. But I really like the contained Spider-Man stories that are very much, you know, I loved Far From Home.
Yeah, I think that like they 100% need to go back to doing that while they build the
Yeah, and I
story,
would like, as you say,
know?
a massive villain to come back.
I just think that
by
like
the end.
in the background
you should be aware in the same way you're aware of Thanos that it's going to be Doom.
Yeah.
You know that Doom is going to be, and like Doom is kind of a Lex Luthor buzz in a sense that like he's not this like huge galaxy eating monster,
But he's a recurring villain. He's always a pain in
but he's a huge issue for them, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, like the Fantastic Four did him really badly. He's actually like a crazy good villain.
I think as well, the only problem with that is that one of the massive complaints about all the Fantastic Four movies is that the villain has always been Doctor Doom. Because like obviously he's the most iconic villain, obviously, like fair enough. But comic book people were like, Fantastic Four literally has countless villains, and you made 3 movies, and all you could do was use Doctor Doom 3 times.
But that's down to like
fuck the old Fantastic
whatever
Four.
it was.
I want to see Doom done well.
Fox who owned them, I think.
Yeah, terrible.
Yeah.
I just want more deaths. I just want more stakes. I just want more stakes.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that.
Unfortunately, like they're going to have to handle Chadwick Boseman, and I don't know how to.
Yeah, like I was thinking about that, and then Variety published a fucking article, or Tech Radar.
No, it was Screen. It was Screen Rant.
Screen Rant. Yeah, and they were like, the day he died, it was like, what are the MCU going to do now? It's like, right, well, fuck you.
Yeah, give us
his life isn't a fucking business.
Yeah, his life is not a fucking business. You're a journalist. You should know this. And we'll think about that when we need to, because it's actually up to fucking his family.
His family,
whether they want to keep Black Panther is. I think the sister will take it over, but
that could be a good show. I think it could be a good direction for them to go. If they want to keep it within the Black Panther kind of family, rather than trying to recast it or
recasting it would be very kind of.
I don't know how that would work.
It's passed on from like a father to a son, and like he didn't have a son in the franchise, so yeah, the sister would be a good route.
Okay, so guys, we talked about episode 1 and 2.
We just did 1.
I think.
Yeah. So don't talk about episodes 2, 3, and 4 of The Boys.
Yeah, because there wasn't a whole lot going on in episode 2.
Well, episode 2 is kind of more of a filler episode. You got a little bit more backstory to a couple of characters, a couple of things planted that paid off later on.
They found the super terrorist,
and then there's a bit of build up there. But
wait, I want to talk about one thing in episode 2. When Homelander threw the kid off the roof.
That was amazing. Only a show like The Boys would actually do a scene like that.
I thought the fucking kid had broken his arm or something. I was like, he's definitely not sick.
I would have loved if the kid died, like had broken his neck, or if the kid was like paralyzed or something like that from the neck down. I would just make Homelander perfect, because he is literally as great as this show is. It has it all, but he just, every scene he's in, I'm like, you are the greatest villain ever to put on screen. You're just such
fair play to Anthony Starr.
Is that who plays him?
Yeah.
He is incredible.
He is Australian, I believe.
What? That's crazy.
Yeah, he's got black hair as well.
Is Butcher Australian?
No,
no, he's not.
No, sorry. Butcher is Australian, right?
The character
Carl Urban is Australian.
Yeah.
But the character is British. But it's him trying to do a British accent while he's Australian.
Yeah.
Like Carl Urban always... No, it doesn't work at all. No. They should have just made him
Australian.
Yeah.
Australian, so much better.
Yeah.
I thought he was Australian.
I think they don't really draw too much attention to it, because in the reenactments of Butcher killing Madeline,
yeah, that's fucking gas. I wish I got Chris Evans.
They made him proper Aussie though in those reenactments. I think they're probably just trying to say because
I
remember
he's
British is in the first one. He's going up banging on about English cups of tea and stuff like that.
Yeah, because we were watching it and we were like, this chap's fully Australian. Like, why is he talking about like British tea and everything?
Crumpets,
like that. Like crumpets, yeah.
Where's my scones?
Yeah, like he's proper Australian. I don't know why they like didn't get that off screen test. That people were like, this fella's fully Australian.
Here's a fun fact for you guys. So the comics are very, very popular.
Are they still going? Are they still like publishing them? Or
no, I think it was like a finished series. It's like but there's so many issues. So every couple of episodes is based off of like volumes.
A couple of issues,
volumes, so Huey is based off of
Simon
Pegg, and they got Simon Pegg in the series. Is Huey's dad dead?
Yes, they did kill him, didn't they? Or maybe he can't see them again. Does he?
I'm not sure at all. Is he dead?
I thought A-Train might have killed him or something.
No,
I really should have rewatched season 1.
Yeah, me too. I think I'm
because there was a lot going on in season 1. There really was. Like, you know what I mean?
I remember that his dad was definitely a really prominent character, so they probably did.
And I can't imagine Simon Pegg was able to sign up to it. He's a pretty busy guy, so I would imagine he wasn't able to sign up for the full second season.
Episodes 3 and 4 were absolutely fucked.
Amazing.
What do you guys think of Stormfront?
she is such a brilliant addition. Like,
Yeah.
I
So
just,
good.
I love that, as you say, Tiernan, like, it's the perfect thing for Homelander to be emasculated by this fucking
That's what they
horrible-
said. And back to remember when I was talking shite about Gwyneth Paltrow. That's the way to integrate
introduce
diversity
into the
into
show.
these roles, because that is just the perfect way to approach Homelander, with like a really strong woman who isn't afraid of him at all.
And I was just thinking about this when I was watching The Boys. Like, it is so good at like doing commentary on like forced tokenism and like you know forcing women and
that scene
blacks
on
and
the like the equivalent of Oprah is fucking hilarious.
but then I was just thinking about it and I was like, this show is weirdly one of the most inclusive shows ever. You know, you have black characters that are strong black characters.
Mother's Milk, like
Mother's Milk.
And again, like
even A-Train, you know what I mean? He's a
A-Train.
really complex character, you know what I mean? And they write them really complex. And then you have, you know, tons of women, strong fucking women. You have gay characters. And, you know, it has it all.
Well,
all while commenting on...
The Boys in itself, like the group of boys, like Starlight being kind of a technical member, and then Kimiko are both the strongest member of the boys.
They like they're all just like Huey is the weakest member.
Yeah,
he's like the protagonist.
Yeah.
Exactly, like So, but going back on to
Stormfront, such a
Stormfront,
Nazi.
she is insanely good. And so, spoiler alert, guys, you really need to start watching the show because we're going to be spoiling it every week. But that in episode 4, when they revealed that she is Liberty, and she just hate crimes that guy and murders him.
So she's based off a neo-Nazi.
A neo-Nazi,
Yeah.
essentially.
So in the comics, it's originally a neo-Nazi who literally has a fucking thunderbolt in his cape.
As in the Nazi
yeah,
Thunderbolt.
yeah, and then she's Stormfront or whatever. So
Yeah.
she has the
Well, I mean, you
Thunderbolt.
can kind of see that vibe off of like the
She's very SS trooper.
the
Yeah.
America flag armband.
Armband, yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, just the way she goes on about everyone.
It's
Yeah,
so good
it's
about
so
like
vicious
how
and
she's
horrible.
like stoking nationalism and stuff in it, because the funny thing is Homelander is trying to stoke that too.
Yeah.
You know, but he is more kind of like focused on, hang on, we're heroes who are protecting the world and we need to get into the army. She is like, no, fuck that. We're America and we can pin it on fucking immigrants and we can, and she was like, you don't have to be, she was like, you need to have 10% of the most impassioned
Do you
people.
think that she comes across like she's soaking up nationalism? I think she's just soaking up like anti-Vought.
I think
Because I thought it was a commentary like that, but they look more like kind of like, did it not mention that the people who were showing up to her rallies were like Antifa?
No, I think they were like, no, were they?
I think they were. I think that there was a thing about that they were, because she's there saying basically like against all the corporations stuff.
Yeah,
and stuff like
yeah,
that.
I suppose, but it's like she also like has that like you need a fucking leader here, and like she's all.
I
It's
think
also,
she's just applying herself to the demographic she's going after.
Well, that's
Because
spot on. She goes, you only have to be
yeah.
liked by 10% of people, and I think it was a little bit of a pointing thing at like Trump, because when you look at someone like Trump and you're like, people say he's the most polarizing president ever, but the people who do support him
Love
fully
him, like,
fucking
love
support
him,
him. It's like a cult
Love him,
almost.
yeah.
And Stormfront is going for that. She's like, I don't give a fuck. I don't care how many people like me. The 10% that do like me are gonna fucking love me and back me on whatever the fuck I do.
She also seems extremely powerful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
big
she does.
time.
I don't think she's Homelander powerful. I feel like she remember in the scene where Homelander kind of confronted her.
Yeah.
And she didn't get scared, like she was manipulating him, of course, but like she did kind of like back down a little bit.
Yeah, you see, their physical powers is a funny one, because like Homelander as well is like, and the actor who portrays him, what's his name again?
Anthony Starr.
Anthony Starr. He is a very physically like
Intimidating
person, like, which is all to do with his performance as well. Like he's just so good,
scary.
like but you're so tense every time he's on scene. He's also one of the funniest characters in the show, which is amazing. So yeah, he really does have a physical presence that I guess Stormfront hasn't necessarily got yet. But you can see they're trying to portray him as like more broken and a bit more dysfunctional as it's going on, and he's losing control of the Seven.
Yeah,
which
it's
is
like you
great
could
as well.
cripple him with fucking like talking about
emotions
and milk and his fucking mom and
Did you
his
think
childhood and all.
he was gonna fuck himself?
fully.
I fully thought he was going to fuck himself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I'm
love that
so
about
surprised
the
he didn't.
I love that about the show.
That's like his turning point though, because I feel like next episode he's going to come out all guns blazing, because like he was just like
Low there.
from using doppelganger, he was like, I'm so fucking low and dependent on this woman, and then he was just like, I don't fucking need to fuck me.
Yeah.
I don't need to fuck anyone. I'm fucking Homelander.
yeah.
And then he just lasers his eyes out. Like
It was brilliant. And I was telling Tiernan as well just before we started the podcast, like that doppelganger bit was fucking brilliant because like we were saying when we saw Madeline, was it Stillwater, is that her name? Stillwell. And she was there and I was kind of first thing going, fuck, she back? Like what stupid excuse they're going to use to bring her back? Like, do you know what I mean? Because you know when they kill off characters in the show, they're fucking gone. Like, and then turns out to be fucking doppelganger, and like Homelander is so fucking disgusted by his back is turned. Like, he's
he's
like,
such a horrible looking bastard as well.
horrible, like.
Yeah, it's awful. As well, I love seeing like the Deep in action on the whale.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, like the Deep obviously is like he's becoming a huge part of this. I'm loving the little Scientology thing they're bringing
I'm
in
loving
as
the
well,
cults.
like the cults.
A-Train as well getting fucking
See the
dumped.
the characters are so like dense and like because the Deep is someone who's like horrible, but like that scene where his gills are talking to him and calling him out for why he is this way and why he's a sexual predator and why he's out to humiliate women because he's self-conscious about his own body. I loved it. I was like, this is so complex and so
And when Homelander came up to him and was like, your gills
gills are showing, like,
you're disgusting.
yeah, like it plays
felt
into
so
this whole
bad for
yeah,
him.
like
Yeah.
and I think that the show with the Deep is even season 1 I felt from the offset you're like, this guy's a fucking terrible person, but within a few episodes you know this guy has got so much shit wrong with him, and that's why he's this way. And like you saw it when like Starlight confronted him and she's like, you're such you're like the loser of the fucking group, and you actually start feeling bad for him.
Yeah.
You go from the guy being like, what a fucking horrible
Even
guy,
though he's a sexual
he's
predator.
a sexual predator,
Yeah.
like, but the show makes them so dense and complicated, and there's just no black and white with any of
It's
the
a great
characters.
commentary on Aquaman because obviously fucking the Deep is based off Aquaman.
He's
like,
basically Aquaman.
He's basically Aquaman, like, and Aquaman was seen as this fucking loser
yeah.
for
Not
so
invited
long.
to the
And
Super
in
Friends.
reality, the comic books are very serious, very fucking violent.
Yeah,
Like, you can get some serious Aquaman where he like fucking kills his dad.
fellas
all
with
this
tridents
shit,
and all,
like
like,
tridents
yeah,
and all.
yeah.
But even like Jason Momoa, like they tried it. It didn't work though.
No.
No,
Like,
but they
Aquaman-
tried it like this isn't fucking, you know, the Aquaman from the 50s.
Yeah, this is your dad's Aquaman.
Yeah.
Jason Momoa.
Yeah, he's fucking cool.
He's got
man.
tattoos.
He's got tattoos. And
Doesn't
he
wear a
fucks.
shirt.
This guy
like,
fucks. Sorry, but no, the Deep is such a great way to portray like the character or whatever. Because you like if Aquaman did exist, he would fucking be ashamed of his gills.
Yeah,
he probably
like,
would be like trying to
He'd be
fucking.
embarrassed around the rest
But that's
of the
what they
Justice
do,
League,
and even
like,
around like the whole, even the world building is incredible because I feel like there's someone who's like a huge group whose only job is to think about like the billboards and advertising around this. Like the shot where Homelander is on the side of the barn and it's the
Confederate flag.
Confederate flag. Yeah, I
instead
love
of the
that.
American
All those
flag
little
on his
touches
cape.
are just.
Or like there was a billboard that said the baby you're about to board could be
be
a
a
super.
super.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff
yeah,
like that.
absolutely.
One thing that I thought kind of just came out of nowhere was like them being like, oh yeah, all the superheroes are made. I feel like this should have been like a bigger thing.
Well, I feel like there's this. I think this show, the writers really know what they're doing with it.
Yeah.
So there's a reason why that was exposed very early on in the season. I think there's something going to accumulate.
It's
gonna
extremely
be-
well written, and it's
Yeah.
just been confirmed for season 3 and 4, and they've signed someone on really big name to come in.
As in, like acting wise, or
Acting
like
wise, yeah. Sure, we can talk about it in the next news segment.
yeah.
But anyway, I think that like in terms of like the A Train, obviously Starlight and Queen Maeve and
Queen Maeve is
the
getting
Deep.
a lot of.
I feel like all of these characters are slowly obviously getting turned out of the 7, so you can see that there's a direction where it's heading in that they could not only like subvert this group, but they could 100% like tear it apart and reform it and
Yeah.
point it at the right people.
Yeah, like
you
will
know?
we see like Maeve and the Deep and stuff teaming up with the Butcher and stuff and all? Even
Yeah.
though I don't think it's gonna go that way because I think
that's Starlight. They might team up with Starlight.
Starlight, yeah,
But,
yeah.
like I don't ever see it like Frenchies there
Yeah.
like fighting alongside
No,
the
yeah.
A Train.
No.
absolutely,
me
yeah,
neither.
like, and
I
I love
think-
that about like the boys are so like they're just a couple of lads,
Yeah.
like they're just
Yeah.
chancing their arms.
Yeah,
like,
they
the
literally
only
are the
reason-
fucking boys. Like.
Yeah, the
So-
only reason they're able to. Like,
Homelander's killing someone big though.
oh, absolutely.
In this season, I feel like the Deep or A Train is gonna fucking say something to him.
Well, I mean, even like at the start of it, they introduced, we've got Kimiko, and we're getting a little bit more of about her background and stuff, which is great. Like, she's from this Japanese village that was just terrorized, and then her and her brother were like forced to take Compound V and become superheroes and they see themselves as monsters and stuff. And of course, the brother is the super terrorist that's kind of working in their favor, so that the supers can go, you need us in the army to stop these guys. But they introduced her brother into it. I was kind of expecting him to be like the crux of season 2.
Yeah.
Like, he's going to be the person that they're chasing throughout this whole thing, and they fucking killed him off.
Yeah, I was kind of happy
within an
about that.
episode.
though.
Like, yeah,
No,
it was
so
good.
was I.
It was good. Like, yeah.
I didn't want him to be like I didn't want it to become a team of supers.
No.
Is Laz Alonso's character called Mother's Milk?
Mother's
Yeah.
Milk, yeah.
Mother's Milk. I feel like if I was to pinpoint a character who's gonna die, after the little bit of
About his dad
about his dad and how much entrenched, he'd definitely be the most high stakes
They're
character
building
to
him
die.
up. They're definitely
He's got
building
his
him up to
kids
die.
at home now. And
That's what I
shouldn't
mean.
have taken
That's what I mean. He's
Butcher.
got
He
his-
shouldn't have taken Butcher's offer.
No.
Butcher's only fucking fucked him over.
But that's what I mean. He's got his
Yeah.
kids at home, so if you kill him, what are you expecting from the next episode? I'm expecting a proper face off of Black Noir and the Butcher.
Yeah, I think Black Noir is they've weirdly built him up in this season, and I can't wait to see where it's going. Like,
When he's in action.
yeah, like, you've really got to see his powers, but I think, I don't know, like, they're obviously as well, they're gonna try to, they're also trying to flesh out Kimiko and Frenchie's relationship, and also Huey and Starlight's relationship as well, which I think is kind of lacking in this season. I think they had a lot more chemistry in season 1.
Yeah.
I think now they're going to probably try and maybe either wedge a bit of division between them in the next episode a little bit more, because you can see it kind of building a little bit, even though they're obviously like in love with each other and stuff.
Well, when Homelanders set her on him, like, I was freaked.
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
know,
know what
like,
was
yeah,
going to happen.
yeah,
and like, how would you have felt if he was just zapped there on the spot?
I would have been annoyed. I think
you?
you need to keep Huey.
Yeah,
Like, you need
yeah.
to keep.
Huey is the fucking protag.
Yeah.
Yeah. But speaking of superheroes, which isn't as good as The Boys, which is a fucking 10 out of 10.
Speaking of another group.
Yeah, so another group.
Good segue. Jay.
So we obviously went to go see the New Mutants.
Our first time in cinema together.
The three of us all together. Watching
Terrible
the film.
fucking movie to go to see.
Yeah,
But obviously this movie is infamous. Had 5 release dates.
I think so.
Josh Boone directed it. It had nightmares with reshoots, with distribution,
rewrites.
script.
So what happened was the first pushback day, I think it was in 2018, there was issues with reshoots. They needed to do reshoots. You can see that throughout this whole film that they needed to do reshoots. Then the next time around, it was down to the fact that Disney had to finalize the deal with Fox. And then the next time around, it was to make room for X-Men Dark Phoenix. And then I believe the next time around was due to COVID. So there was so much
This
issues.
movie was dead on arrival. Like, let's be real.
Yeah,
Like,
this movie died in production.
Well, just the
Just
fact that
production hell.
Dark Phoenix is moving it back.
moving it back.
Yeah, that's so fucking poor, because I actually stopped watching X-Men after Apocalypse.
So did I.
And I
Yeah.
just heard that
same.
Dark Phoenix wasn't fucking worth my time.
But I mean, they must have screen tested both of those films and gone, Jesus, Dark Phoenix won over this. Like,
Yeah,
you know, I
100%,
mean, like,
yeah.
I don't even know why they released New Mutants.
Well, this is the thing. So to draw it back a bit, let's describe the plot of this film, because I mean it's the most basic fucking standard plot. And okay, so you've got like B-level stars in this film.
Yeah, at the time they were all B-level
B-level
stars. They were
stars. You've
TV,
got,
TV guys.
stars. You've got Maisie Williams from
Who's awful in
from
this.
she's terrible. From
What do you think?
I didn't think she was
Fucking
good at
aw-
all.
everyone's awful in this.
From Game of Thrones. You've got Jonathan from fucking Stranger Things.
He
who-
just plays Jonathan from Stranger Things with a
except
black
with
eye.
a fucking southern accent. Like,
Which changes completely throughout the
Terrible.
fucking thing. You can tell them in the reshoots they were like, what was
maybe-
your accent like again?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, was it Southern Kentucky? or
What's
where
his
was
actor? What's his name?
Kentucky is
No, what's the actor's name?
Ian.
it? Let me just get it
I
now.
forget.
Anyway,
Um,
no one was good in this movie.
Yeah,
We
we also
Anya Joy Taylor.
Yeah.
and like
She was the fucking she was the American, well, she's actually English American, playing the fucking
Russian.
and it's just such a
Her
dead
name. She was the most cliche Russian I'd ever seen. Her second name in this film was Rasputin.
Rasputin, like what?
What?
Ilyana Rasputin.
Ilyana Rasputin. Like, Jesus Christ, you may as well call him Vladimir Putin, man.
Charlie Heaton is the actor's name. Now you had Alice Braga, who's played Dr. Reyes as well, right? Which is so weird that they tried to tie this to Logan. Like, they clearly were making this because she's in Logan.
Well, what I was saying to Jack on the way home is I have no idea where. I thought this film was going to be
Like the
The
reboot of the
kids.
X-Men, like.
the kids who survived Logan, like who Logan gave their life for. To
That
go
would
on
have
to
been a
be the new
much better
generation.
idea.
There would have been characters that you were rooting for in that.
Yeah.
Like I was against all of these characters as soon as they came on screen.
Absolutely.
Because like they were just kind of already set up to fail. There was never a point where I was like, you know what, this character could be good. Like Maisie Williams being Scottish, I wonder was that down to the fact that she couldn't do American?
Just
But
make
it's a
her,
good point.
she's English, like just give
Yeah.
her fucking English.
I think it
accent.
was to give her maybe as well that Catholic kind of thing. It would probably make more sense to either make her Irish or
Scottish, yeah. I just thought the whole thing was a bunch of characters who were incredibly cliched. They all had awful powers. They were all fleshed out in such an expositioned way. Like there was just no real redeeming qualities about this. But what I really want to talk about is what I was talking to Jack on the drive home was that the fact that it was the most sloppily made film I've seen in a long
Yeah,
It was
time.
messy.
very poor.
Like, do you remember the scene at the start when Anya Joy-Taylor is walking out and she grabs a thing of spray paint because they had to give her something to do?
yeah.
Thing. She starts spraying on the fountain wall. The next scene, there's no spray paint on it.
Yeah.
The following scene after that, there's spray paint on it.
Yeah,
Then for the rest of the film, there's no
no
spray
more
paint.
spray paint.
And like it's like it's about what I felt about this movie was it was empty. It was like this really weird, like cheap film. Even though
It looked like TV.
yeah, like money would have been spent on it without a doubt. Like there's CGI in it and stuff that isn't terrible. It's not brilliant, but they would have had to drop a good few million on it. I'm sure Maisie Williams and this Charlie Heaton guy and Anya Joy-Taylor weren't the fucking cheapest, but obviously they're not A-listers. But then you
Like,
also
they definitely would have been a lot of money, like 100.
Couple of million,
You
do you know
wouldn't
what I
be
mean?
able
Like-
to get real A-listers in this type of movie, like.
no,
you know?
no, true. But it's also the fact that it's all set.
There's a fly.
We've got a fly going on.
Fly there. I wonder will you be able to, will the mics be picking this fly up?
I have a feeling it might. We can hear him pretty good here.
Yeah. Okay. As soon as he.
Are we leaving this in?
Yeah, yeah. No, you're definitely not going to be able to get fucking any A-listers in this film. It is the biggest B movie thing I've ever seen.
Well,
in my life.
it is a B movie because it's all set in one place, which is clearly a money choice. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all set in this like
It's
little
like the
fucking
most
thing.
dead set ever. It's
Why
literally
would they
fucking
leave?
Dead, like.
And there's just so many questions about like why would they leave one woman in charge of 5 fucking super mutants with fucking outrageous powers? To a
It's
point
sort of
where
with the force fields, like they knocked her out at one stage. Like, is that the force field?
is she the one who's casting the force field and stuff? Like it just
Hi guys, welcome back there. We had to deal with a wasp that was the quickest wasp I've ever seen in my life.
That's the most exciting thing that's ever happened to me.
We're gonna stick the audio at the end of the episode, I think.
Yeah, we'll
of,
give you a
us,
little-
of us realizing the wasp is in the room.
We'll give you a little taste of what just happened.
Yeah.
Three of us brutally murdered him.
And we used lots of different tactics.
Yeah, it was actually very interesting.
You won't really know what's going on.
Okay, so we were
Back
talking
to-
about
yeah.
the New Mutants and how that you could only get B actors for this film,
Yeah.
and just how one location, one actor in one facility with 5 mutants,
five
which
mutants,
is a very weird amount. If they're setting them, we're completely spoiling this movie because
Who fucking
don't
cares?
go fucking see it.
Don't
Yeah, see it. don't
if
see it,
If
don't
you're
see it.
interested in it, stream it. Yeah, it's one that, like, there's only 5 mutants, and if you're going to be sending them to this facility to make them into killers or whatever,
Yeah.
it's like, why would you, like, you know, like, everything is like a major scale, especially with all these evil corporations.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
just
yeah.
kind of feel like, ugh, there's so many rooms and empty rooms in this place.
Yeah, I just hate you see, this is the thing. So I could understand the setting because it was marketed as like a horror film. They're gonna make it like more scary. and
Well, he
they're
said that he based it upon like a mix between John Hughes and Stephen King, which we both done a podcast. We've
Actually,
done
yeah.
we done podcasts on both. One that was lost to the ether. But do you think that this film was anything like either John Hughes or Stephen King films?
No, it's like if I said to you, try to write down a film that has John Hughes and Stephen King in it in the next 5 fucking minutes. Do you know what I mean? And slap it together. He was like, God, there's a scene where they make the teacher go to sleep and they
and
they have
do the
tambourines and they dance
Yeah,
and then
yeah, God, those scenes are
Oh, it's
so
so
awful.
it was forced.
It's
and it
painful.
was-
It's painful.
Yeah,
to
like
watch
all like
Maisie
Maisie
Williams
Williams
in
was
one.
like, here's a fucking tambourine, like go
Let's
do
have
it.
a bit of a dance.
Yeah, have a little
and,
dance, like, oh, we're having fun on set, like.
and
yeah.
it was like, you know, so the main 2 characters in it. Who was the main girl in this, by the way?
So her name's Mirage, the actual character.
She reminded me of
There are 2 wolves inside of you.
Oh.
One is addicted to crack. The other is addicted to crack. You are addicted to crack. That's all I fucking thought.
That is actually like basically what Jack just said is basically
The film.
The film. It's the end of the film. Like they're fucking. But this film actually cost 67 million to make.
That's not that much though when you
Yeah, I
think about it. In the
suppose
grand
it's
scale.
Yeah, but you have
of
to double
things.
it for marketing. I got so many fucking Instagram ads off of this fucking bullshit movie. Maisie Williams pretending to be excited.
Yeah, like they actually pumped up this movie a lot, but I think they came at the perfect time for them to release. I'd say they had this steaming pile of shit in their hands that no one wanted to release. And they said, fuck it, release it during the pandemic. No one's going to see it anyway. And then if the box office figures are fucking bad, we can just say, well,
Yeah.
they were going to be down anyway. Like, it was perfect for them. I don't know where this, like, I don't even know who this film is for.
Yeah.
It's not for X-Men.
It's not for
fans.
fans of comic book movies
No.
anyway.
I don't know whether they were
It's
trying
too
to
obscure.
usher in a new
Wave
kind
of
of wave
X-Men.
of X-Men.
Well, we do
or-
have a man on the inside. We won't say who,
We
but
won't,
Josh
yeah.
Boone, currently working on the set of The Stand, or not currently, The Stand is due to come out, essentially told one of our sources
Yeah, we'll
that,
keep it at that, yeah.
that the New Mutants is not going to be a good film, and
Well,
he was the man behind it. He was
behind
the
it,
front
yeah.
runner on it, but apparently he actually was let go of The Stand.
Oh, really?
He's,
Well,
he's
yeah.
not meant to be a good worker. He's not meant to be a man with a lot of method. So
Yeah, I mean, I got that. I got this. I didn't get the same feeling that, like, you know, the Fantastic Four stick that we talk about that Josh Trank publicly decried a day before it came out. I didn't get that same feeling of messiness, but there was a feeling of like this was longer. They had a longer plot here. They had other things that they
Yeah.
were going to be.
I demand the Boone cut.
Yeah, but they were literally just like, chop it down to 90 minutes, get it out. We'll just fuck a lot of marketing at it. Like, because I remember when the announcement trailer came out, it looked quite interesting, and I liked the idea of like the horror elements and stuff. The horror elements that were in this
Not
were just
spooky.
not scary.
Like-
we were laughing our heads
like
off.
the smiley man, I've never laughed more in a cinema at something
Yeah.
like, and it was
We were
meant to
actually
be
in
this
tears.
scary.
I laughed out loud several points in
Yeah,
this,
yeah,
this
you
movie.
literally were like,
I was in
proper
bits
laughing
just
in
laughing
scenes,
at
yeah.
like how badly it was
But
made.
even like how many times they said New Mutants, which is the title, I think they said it 3 times, and it's weird to say the title once
in your film.
film.
Yeah.
Like it really is. If you need to say the title of your film, I mean, this writing's already weak.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, absolutely. And like, this is the thing, like, they appeal to every single cliche, and they're trying to cash in on what's popular at the moment. And I'm watching this, and I'm thinking about things like Stranger Things, because obviously I'm going to think about Stranger Things because the actors in it. I'm thinking about things like the Umbrella Academy, these kind of ensemble casts, and especially kids. There's a huge selling point for that. This executed it so badly. None of them were likable. They had no chemistry with each other.
And they
I
had
just
so much more source material. I mean,
so much
X-Men as
more.
a universe is so
Yeah.
expansive.
it didn't feel like an X-Men film.
No, it
Like,
didn't.
do you know what I mean?
No,
Like, I'm
it
not
really
saying that
didn't.
like X-Men has been patchy for me. There's some movies that I'm like love, like, you know, the first 2 X-Men and Logan and Days of Future Past. Then you have your blotchier parts.
Your
But-
Wolverine,
Yeah,
Samurai.
Wolverine,
X-Men
Samurai fucking
Origins,
monster.
fucking
Origins, and then the Wolverine and fucking, you know,
The
Apocalypse and
Wolverine is the
stuff like,
weirdest film ever.
Weirdly enough,
I quite
same
liked
guy
it.
who directed The Wolverine did Logan.
Like, I'm not gonna lie, I thought that like the Wolverine was just a fun samurai ninja Wolverine.
But it was so different to Logan. I was like, how is this?
Yeah.
It
the
also
same
completely
director?
fucks up the timeline because he loses his claws and then he's just like in Logan. It's just like, all right.
He was
I've got-
also-
I've
he
got-
was-
But
he
in
was
Logan,
also
they were just like, no, we're not doing that.
He was also in Apocalypse. Wolverine was also in Apocalypse, which was bizarre to me. Like,
Wait, does he have bone claws in Logan?
you know, he has blades because he's the Logan from X-Men 1.
Yeah, he is, isn't he? Yeah. but-
Because they make reference to the Statue of Liberty and stuff and all, which is X-Men 1.
Like, if you look at the graph that someone's made about the X-Men timelines, you might as well fucking get a degree in physics. 'cause
Yeah,
this
like they
thing
don't.
They gave the
is
rights out
fucked.
too much.
They did, and like, look, I'm glad that this was a flop because it was fucking shit. There was nothing, like it's
Nothing redeemable.
No, and it wasn't like I was sitting there going like, God, this is so bad. Like, this is embarrassingly bad. Like, I was just like, this is just so lazy and like a
Lazy,
mess.
lazy.
And just why the fuck, you know, what were they thinking making a film
I mean,
like
just the
this?
continuity issues alone, it was enough to turn me off. Like, as soon as I saw a couple of continuity issues and knowing that this went through reshoots, I was just like, they didn't give a fuck about the final cut of this.
No.
This was lazy editing. Like, even stuff like I was laughing to Jack about this. Like, one scene, she breaks her nose and there's blood gushing out of it. Literally, the following scene,
Her nose
was dry and
Yeah.
there was no blood on it. And then the following scene after
It's
that,
back.
it's back to bloody nose. But like, one of the funniest things as well was the introduction of the main character's father, who was never on screen, and they really didn't need to bring him on screen.
Yeah.
And it was just some random Native American lad. And you see, the thing is about when you work on sets, there's usually a liaison for the Native American people and how you have to treat their land, and because they're it's essentially like their land that you're working on. And me and Jack were talking about it, and we were like, they definitely just got him off, and they got the liaison to just pop onto the film. for a few.
100%.
And we looked him up. He's miscellaneous crew.
There
on
you
the
go.
film.
There you go.
And he plays himself.
Yeah, like he
In
just
so many things. It's like documentaries about being a Native American,
Yeah,
etc.,
yeah,
etc.
yeah.
I mean,
And
yeah, brilliant
beach.
and all and great, but like the way he was acting, it was just like he just looked at the camera, like he was
Yeah.
looking at the camera and
Yeah.
just like, hello, there's two bears inside of you. One
Oh
is
yeah, and
addicted
also
to crack.
so that was tacked on at the end, that little voiceover about two bears inside you, and you just knew that was a post-production choice. They were like, okay, this film doesn't really make sense. Let's just tack in some ADR at the
But
end.
I wouldn't mind. Like, at the start of the film, she said something her father said. At the end of the film, that was a different thing her father said.
Yeah, it's a different. Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
they didn't need to add the dad in, or if they were going to do that, they needed to add him in from the start.
Yeah.
Like, why didn't you see the dad's face at the start of the film? I mean, what's the buzz? Like, when, like, there wasn't a moment when the dad's face came on camera that we were like, oh, right, like, he's a
Yeah.
warming presence.
Yeah,
we were like,
who the fuck is this guy?
We were
Yeah.
like, this isn't like a figure of security for us. This
Yeah,
is just
the-
some
yeah,
random
yeah.
dude.
There's
like,
17 people in this movie, and 6 of them are the minors.
No
in
way.
the scene,
in the
like,
cast.
yeah,
like,
one of them's the dad, and then fucking
the
Marilyn
fucker.
Manson is the voice,
It's the
of
voice
the
of the
Smiling
smiling
Man.
man. Yeah, yeah. Like,
And he's not even fucking spooky.
and like the thing about the Smiling Man was, I don't know if you guys like saw this, but I think it's on Netflix or it's on Amazon. But you know those really shitty horror movies that
like
like
the Bye Bye Man?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Like
one of those. And
Slender.
it was called Smiley, and the fucking villain is just like a fucking flesh face with a smiley face cut into it. And that's what these guys were. And I was
Yeah.
like, really? I was like, you're going to copy
We were
a
crying,
terrible
yeah.
horror film?
We were crying
Yeah.
because one thing I want to say about this film as well is it was weirdly sexual, like really weirdly
Very
sexual.
sexual.
It
Like,
was.
like the Smiling Men were basically these big giant slender men
Rapists.
trying to
Rapists.
rape a child.
Yeah, like
And one of the guy's powers is that whenever he gets a boner, he lights on fire. Like what? And then like Maisie Williams
So
is talking
weird.
about masturbating and like
Yeah,
she has
yeah,
some
yeah.
weird
Yeah.
sexual thing going
You
with
can
the
see
priest.
you can see the the reshoots of this so funnily because when he's in the pool with fucking Rasputin.
what were they thinking?
He's in the pool with Rasputin and he gets all fucking fired up. He gets too hot. And then later on, Maisie Williams is like, you have to carry her. And he's like, I can't. I'll get too hot.
I'll get a boner.
She's unconscious, like. And you're basically saying
She was
that
a
she
child,
fucking
too, like.
she's also a child. So basically saying he's horny for sleep children.
Also, how great was that scene which the three of us burst out laughing was he's on fire like and he's after like he's in the pool after having this like romantic scene and he's like having flashbacks to burning his girlfriend alive and he's on fire and how Dr. Ray deals with this is just grabs the pole and pushes him into the
Sorry,
pool.
yeah, that was the most ridiculous
Grabs
thing.
like the pool cleaning net.
It just gives him a little prod.
He's a mutant, like.
He's just like
And what's his power? Is he just hot? He's
just hot.
He just gets hot when
He's not
a
like
boner.
Johnny Flame or anything.
no,
he's just
not,
hot.
Like, yeah,
Like, whenever
but
he
they-
gets whenever
they
he gets a
had him.
boner, he's like the Human Torch.
But this is the thing, and this is the problem with X-Men.
Like what was the sign? And they had so many scenes where they were like, "Let's shoot it in the shower."
Yeah.
They were like, "We doing this in the shower?" And
shower,
they were,
so,
they were
like-
like, "Yeah." Like it was just weird.
And like he's like
And Josh Boone's pretty young, by the way. He's like 35.
yeah, he's a young enough guy, like yeah. But the thing about it is as well is like it was just like there was nothing unique about like the characters. We've seen it all before. None of it was fleshed out. It was like just you got little snippets of their backstories. You didn't care about their backstories. Like Roberto's a rich Brazilian guy
Who didn't, like, he was the one without an accent who would probably most likely have an accent.
Exactly. They all had like ridiculous accents,
Except
and he
for
just
Roberto. He was
spoke
just
like
like-
an American,
he was
except he was
American,
Brazilian. And like you could tell that there was like, as you say, that kind of that John Hughes thing. They were trying to set that at the start, where it's like he's like your jock, like, you know,
Yeah.
kind of overly sexual, but probably a little bit insecure. You know,
But
what's
yeah,
his name?
weirdly passing on to your one being like, oh, I hope you stay around for a while. It's like, what are you going to do? Fucking bone your hot man.
Yeah. But like it was just so weird, and like
But even like when they spiked Reyes' drink and they didn't show or
the very
spiking
big
Reyes'
she's
drink.
I may have spiked her drink.
And
I am sneaky Soviet girl.
like,
We are masters of tricks in Russia.
The
Like,
night before,
what?
they had also had a night where they were like sneaking out doing stuff as well. So I feel like in the reshoots they were like, all right, so we have this fun night where they're having a good time, and then we need another fun night where they're having a good time. And then your man Kentucky was like this really like good dude at the start, and then like halfway through he just has this like little outburst that really meant fuck all.
Nothing.
Yeah,
Like,
and
that's
why does
just
he
like
constantly hurting himself?
Yeah.
I feel like they were just like had a spare fucking sling in the prop department. They were like, here, like wear this.
Throw 'em
This
onto
is some
that.
character development.
But can we
because
talk
you
about
can't
the
land.
powers? Like the powers were so bad.
Brutal.
They were
Maisie
ridiculous.
Williams looked ridiculous.
Yeah.
in this.
Maisie Williams turns into a dog. That's her
Turns
power.
to a dog.
It appears that she cannot be
She's
in
like-
anything
she's
that
very
isn't
small.
wolf and wolf.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, she was just a fucking dog. And then halfway through, they were like, well, we don't want to actually show a scene where a dog has to fight anyone.
No,
So-
probably like the CGI department.
Yeah,
like,
probably the
that.
CGI department. So they just gave her claws. She looked like Teen Wolf.
They gave her hairy hands, like.
And you know what I never understand? And this is obviously very nitpicky, and I'm not, wouldn't usually downgrade a film with this. But when a werewolf's going halfway through the claws, when they're in the human state, their claws are like these big, huge, massive talons.
fucking,
And then when
yeah.
they're just fucking wolves, they just have regular dog
They're
claws.
dog
yeah.
paws, like, yeah.
What's the extremities there?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, this is the thing, because I remember when I think I said this on a previous podcast. You know, Wolverine. You know, he has the big fucking claws. He's not a wolf. He's a
Yeah.
Wolverine. People don't know. People seem to
Wolverines
think-
exist.
Wolverines are
They are a
Wolverines.
thing.
Wolverines are like a badger. They're nothing, and they have big long claws. They're not like a wolf. But this made her a wolf with
Yeah.
big ridiculous claws. Like wolves don't have those fucking claws. Like,
Yeah.
it's just
Wolves are just fucking normal
They're
animals.
just
Like
big
Eamon
dogs.
Ryan wants to
They're
bring them
big-
back. Like
I don't get why they went with like a standard wolf as like her final transformation. Boner Hot Man was shit. We talked about him. He
can't
was
even
crap.
fly.
The main girl's power was that she brought people's worst nightmares to life, which I actually thought had potential.
yeah,
It was just executed so unbelievably
small.
badly.
well, the pool scene was probably the best scene out of all of this. Like I
Yeah.
didn't realize that wasn't Rasputin, but I
Yeah.
should have because it was Rasputin.
Yeah, but like that wasn't even.
don't think
like,
that was
they
done in
didn't
a
even
clever
they
way.
didn't even make it abundantly clear like that it wasn't her. Like, you know what I mean? And then like we started laughing when your man was like, I get too hot, and he's kissing Rasputin and all. And he's like, I thought you wanted this, and he's like, no. He's like, and I think you literally said it like seconds before he said it. He's like, no, something happened, and you were like, did he fucking burn his girlfriend alive? And then he literally goes, I burned her alive.
So there were so many moments when we were literally saying the following line
Yeah.
before they said it,
Yeah.
which is always just the worst.
Yeah, like I mean, she was
Telling.
like even Dr. Ray is in it. She's walking around in a lab coat for the first 15 minutes of the film, and then when she has the main character, whatever her fucking name was again, like tied down, to, like give her medicine, she's like, oh, she's taking a blood sample. She goes, relax, I'm a doctor. And I literally turned to you, Jack, and I go, I fucking hope so.
Yeah,
Like
no.
you've been walking around in a lab coat the last fucking 15 minutes.
And then she goes, don't worry, I'm a doctor. In fact, my family is
fucking
are
doctors,
doctors.
like.
My mother
Was
was
a
a vet. Sorry, what the fuck? Who wrote that?
Yeah.
It was like, yeah, no,
wasn't
you know,
The
I'm
editing
good.
department really fucked up on
The
this
editing,
one.
and also I felt the dialogue was weirdly clunky. Like, I mean, do you remember that scene where they're in the shower and Maisie Williams has the W fucking branded on her, and then
I'm
they're-
sorry,
they're
I don't want to talk about
That
that.
was it was the
Talk about
most
it.
weird delivery of the line ever.
Yeah.
it was like she
I'm
just
so
went.
sorry, I do not want to talk about it.
Yeah, she just went fucking deadpan and was like, "I don't want to talk about it." And
I
it just
don't want to talk about it
yeah,
proper
it's like,
blagging.
I'm from. she should have been Scouse.
Yeah.
Proper nice. This hospital's proper nice, isn't it?
Proper bag and
Proper
two.
bag and two.
force field in a bed. Lovely as well. Just kill your parents. But anyway, away from the inside jokes here.
But yeah, like I mean, it goes back to like, did they have an overarching plan for this? Were they going to make this a series?
This is apparently supposed to be a trilogy. Yeah,
it's supposed to be a trilogy.
Boom wants to do a trilogy where like a character comes down for space.
An alien invasion.
Yeah, and then like, oh my god, like X-Men. Why can't X-Men just have a decent villain? You know?
Yeah, and like I mean, I get the horror. I get the horror thing.
Magneto is fairly.
No,
yeah,
no,
but like, I mean,
like,
yeah,
like,
but like, you know, try something different. And like, and don't get me wrong, like, I mean, this is the thing. Like, I could understand the horror elements when it first came out because I've always felt X-Men was a bit darker than a lot of the other comics. Like, it explores things like the Holocaust and like, you know, ethnic cleansing and things like that and all, and all these things. And so when it came to horror, I was like, that's a cool concept, and like, you know, setting it in an asylum. But it wasn't scary in any way. It just felt, as I said, empty. It wasn't like, you know, like Shutter Island, you know, a movie like that. They could have tried to make it as anyway atmospheric as Shutter Island was. You know, they're isolated on an island, but it just felt like empty. It just felt like.
But it was just low stake as well. Like
Low
I mean, like
stake,
there was
yeah.
one person you needed to get rid of, who was basically dead because Maisie Williams like clawed her slightly, and then she was essentially dead.
And sorry, can we go back to that? So where does she fit in Logan then? Because she's the good guy in Logan. She's the one who sets the child free and like exposes whatever the corporation is
Is it
called.
the same actor? Like?
It's the same actor, and she was in Logan.
But does she not die in Logan? I thought she was
She
killed.
does die in Logan, but she dies in this.
So
and
maybe
she's
this is a
pure
new
evil in
universe.
this.
Yeah.
Maybe it is. But no, because you see the footage is the same footage that was in Logan. And
I
you
fucking
see,
thought that was the same.
And
footage.
you see the girl, what was her name in Logan? The little kid.
Oh
Excuse
yeah,
me.
the baby Wolverine.
You see her in the footage. So they clearly tried, you know, that could have also just been them just filling up the gaps. Like,
Oh,
just being
definitely. Like, they probably all know that.
being like,
And there's so many scenes that you see. Like, watch the fucking trailer for this, and there is so many scenes that are missing. There's supposed to be a scene with, like, someone's in the bathroom, and there's faces coming out of the wall.
Yes, that was the big part of the marketing. Like,
Yeah.
that face pushing through the wall. Like, yeah. What the fuck?
I'd say there's probably 3 hours of this
The
film
footage,
lying
like,
around.
yeah.
At least the Boone cut.
But as well as like the villain wasn't the villain, it was the protagonist, which is always an issue because I mean like then you're not like who are you supposed to root against, or who you're supposed to root for. Like they were essentially like saving the person who was causing all the shit.
Causing all the shit.
Yeah.
Like Reyes probably should have just fucking killed her. You know?
Yeah, probably. Like,
She was definitely in the right. And you know what was stupid as well? She was sitting there on the table, like, basically waiting to be put down. And Reyes was, like, the least inconspicuous person on the planet. She was like,
you know?
when a dog goes feral, what do you do? Flicking her needle, like...
But also as well, like, going back to the powers, like, it had that weird, like, X-Men always, like, the powers range from, like, anything where you can be, like, because...
Frog, too.
You can be a frogman to someone who can teleport to someone who just like Wolverine is like essentially
Strong.
Like, like he's invincible. But then you also have, you know, in the later films in Days of Future Past, you had your one who could go through the portals and all. What was her name again?
Was it Blink?
Something like that, I think.
it might have been Blink.
But you know, it worked for Days of Future Past because that had become so high stakes. I think in the earlier X-Men, something like that wouldn't have worked where you're literally creating portals and like maybe it would have.
Well, Nightcrawler was essentially teleporting.
Yeah, but he's teleporting. Like, this was literally opening portals in like space and time, which was like quite high concept, I think, for X-Men. Do you know what I mean?
Suppose.
I think they moved into the more sci-fi elements as the later films went on, which is fair. This one had all those like high concept stuff, yet set it in low stakes fucking asylum.
Yeah,
Like,
your one was going to fucking...
Rasputin can go to fucking
hell. No, limbo.
Limbo, but also like
But it's a
you only got
created,
glimpses of it,
constructed world.
but it looked enormous and expansive. You only got glimpses of it, and then she's carrying a fucking halo sword. Like, how is that a power? How is that a mutation?
She needed
like,
this whole
nothing,
like.
There's nothing mutant about that. You are just fucking.
She had, like,
actually says
armor.
it. I'm fucking magic in it. Like, in which you beat her to the punch in saying it when they were like, "No, we can't stop the bear.
It's magic.
It's
The bear
magic.
is magic.
The bear is magic," and then so am I. Like, what the fuck?
But she needed it. She needed like an entire film.
Yeah.
Like she should have been the protagonist because like she had her powers just seemed way too out there. She was definitely the most interesting of the characters. I put that down to Anna
Anya.
Taylor-Joy.
Taylor-Joy.
Even though I thought her character was completely horribly cliched, I still think she made her the most interesting out of the lot.
Yeah, and I mean, you could have had a cool kind of like Scarlet Witch thing there. Not Scarlet Witch. What am I saying?
Fucking hate Scarlet Witch.
Not Scarlet Witch. She's terrible.
She's brutal, yeah.
Black Widow, where remember they hinted that she was like KGB operative like in the years before, and she'd lived through like kind of rough life and stuff. You kind of could have gone that route with this, like came from like Soviet Russia and like a terrible war torn time, and she was
they just made Smiley Face Man.
Smiley Face Man, like,
and the fucking dragon. Like, what was the buzz there?
Sorry, why were the Smiley Face Men wearing silk shirts? They were
because they were like Russian mafiosos without the faces. They were like the most cliche Russian people I've ever seen without the faces.
Honestly,
they're based off of a comic book thing called like The Reich or something that they are.
Okay, yeah, so. And like I mean, like the
nice Easter egg for people who fucking read every comic under the sun.
And you can tell Josh Boone was like trying to make this a bit like an episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. There's literally scenes from
a scene of
Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and like they actually have the scene from one of the best episodes of Buffy with the smiling men in that, which was a really cool episode. And he's probably a big fan. And it did feel a little bit like I was watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Buffy any good?
It's great. It's really good. A good indication of why you should watch it. Joss Whedon was heavily involved in it, and it was really good. Like it's a bit dated now. It's extremely late 90s, early 2000s. But it was like a fun show. This felt, and it like kept the stakes always quite low, and it felt like that's what Josh Boone was going for with this. But like executing it absolutely terribly, and like just trying to tell your own story, trying to branch off from the franchise but keeping just the link that they're mutants. But then this film couldn't make up its mind because it was trying to distance itself from X-Men, but then it also had footage from fucking Logan.
X-Men
and
like,
in talking about X-Men and how like
and at the end of the day, look, a horror film based around superheroes is never going to work unless you just throw out their protective armor, which is like they all a horror film essentially everyone needs to die at the end except for maybe one person, and after they survive they still need to die at the end. I mean that's what horror is about. It's not about you get away with it. It's that you are eaten by your fears. You don't overcome them, you succumb to them. You're done in by them. And that this film wanted to do a horror, way too much of a pussy to do it. It should have never been a trilogy if you wanted to go out and do
it was like Stranger Things horror. Like Stranger Things had elements of horror in it, but it's never particularly scary.
Well, Stranger Things is the issue where it fucking doesn't kill anyone.
Yeah, exactly.
And when fucking someone dies, it's like, oh, they're back. They're just in the upside down.
Because it's kid horror. It's kid-friendly horror. Do you know what I mean?
He's in a fucking gulag, man. But anyway, we should probably wrap it up there.
Yeah, we should. I think we should wrap it up at that. Bottom line, guys, don't see New Mutants. It was a fucking mess, and it was so obvious from the outset that it was just filled with script rewrites.
I'm angry that
reshoots.
We paid money to go see that.
I
still haven't paid you.
Do not give. It's all on me.
Might just leave that.
Just let that slide. I think there's nothing more really to say about it. Don't see it. Don't waste your money on it. I wouldn't even bother watching it, streaming it.
No. Just listen to us complain about it.
Yeah.
It's far better. Well, anyway, guys, thanks for listening again this week. And please let us know if you rather this kind of condensed podcast or if you would like us to go into the more deeper dives. I mean, we might still keep it at that. If we're doing a director, so we might do an hour and a half. If we're doing just a film, we'll just do an hour. We'll vary it depending on the feedback we get back, of course. So next week, I don't think we're set in stone yet, so we'll get back to you when we do have something set in stone.
We'll keep an eye out on the Instagram. We'll update you as we go along.
Thanks so much for keeping up to date with the polls. We love to see the interactions, and we love all the responses we get, and really all the comments on our stories and stuff like that. They're always brilliant, and we appreciate every little bit of it. So we'll see you next week. Please follow us on our socials. Rate us where you listen to the podcast. And we'll see you next week.
See you guys.
See you guys.
This is actually the fastest one I've ever seen.
How is he not tired?
Yeah, I know.
Like, chill out for a sec.
This is insane.
Let us kill you. Just.
Where the fuck is he going?
He's going here. No, I'm gonna miss reality.
Go on, Jack, get him! Get him?
got a murder. No! Yes! 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 He's dead.
Oh, lovely. He's fucking dead. Fuck you, wasp.
Will I leave him in
Was he a wasp? Yeah. Or was he a fly?
No, that's a wasp.
Yeah.
Is it? I don't know. I felt like he would have tried to sting us.
No, look, it's got the head. It's got the wasp's head and all. Like.
I'm gonna leave him there. I'm gonna leave him there as a
Sorry,
warning.
Jack, I didn't stay in your character. Yeah.
You see what happens?
That was exciting as fuck.
As soon as he got it down, we were like, murder.
It was the spray.
Yeah, it was. You definitely dazed them.
We released that as like a separate thing.
With the wasp wars. Yeah, for our Patreon listeners.
I'll add it in as a secret part at the end.
Yeah. We could do an Instagram post on it.
Listen, us killing a wasp.
Decipher the clues. What do the numbers mean, Mason?
Alright, well, we
You want to clap, Jack? Or?
Yeah.
mention as well that we stopped it
Yeah.
for the wasp.